May 1969. Jim Morrison wanted to kill himself that morning. At least, he wanted to kill that rock star persona inside him. When he left his West Hollywood home, his mind was preoccupied with the Doors' new album release, Elektra Records' demands to be more commercial, and the argument he had with Ray Manzarek. "You're just a drunk clown now, Jim." Morrison got into his Cadillac, but didn't go home. He drove to Santa Monica, then Venice, then downtown LA. Hours passed. Around 3 in the afternoon, Morrison found himself in Skid Row, the darkest, poorest, most forgotten corner of Los Angeles. Here, homeless people lived in cardboard boxes. Drug addicts died on street corners. Morrison parked his car. The Cadillac was a conspicuous target in this neighborhood, but Morrison didn't care and started walking. Why was he here? He didn't know himself. Maybe he needed reality. Maybe he needed pain. Maybe he was just running away. After walking 2 blocks, he heard it, a melody coming from a guitar. It was a high-pitched, out-of-tune old guitar, but the player had talent. Morrison walked toward the sound and saw a man on the street corner, in his 40s, with a dirty beard, torn clothes, a cardboard sign that read, "Vietnam Vet, please help," and an old acoustic guitar in his hand. The man was playing the blues, Robert Johnson style, his fingers moving swiftly across those old strings. Morrison stopped and listened. There were only a few coins in the man's guitar case, and Morrison felt something in that moment. This man was free. This man didn't answer to any record company, any producer, any crowd. He only had his guitar and his music. Morrison approached, and the man looked up. His eyes were tired but honest. Morrison asked, "Do you want to sell your guitar?" And with that question, something began to change in Morrison's life. If you want to learn how what Morrison did that day influenced rock music history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The man looked at Morrison and didn't answer at first. He just stared, those tired eyes that had seen everything. Morrison looked familiar, but the man wasn't sure. Maybe he'd seen him on TV, maybe in a magazine. But in Skid Row, nobody knew anybody. Everyone was like a ghost. The man finally spoke. "Why do you want it?" His voice was broken, coming from 12 years of street life. Morrison paused before answering because he didn't know why he wanted it either. Maybe he wanted the freedom of that guitar. Maybe he wanted the freedom of that man. Maybe he just wanted to buy something to regain control, because nothing in Morrison's life was under control anymore. "Because you make real music with it," Morrison said. "I make fake music in stadiums." The man smiled, a bitter smile. "In stadiums? Are you a musician?" Morrison nodded. "Jim Morrison, The Doors." The man suddenly understood. His eyes widened, then narrowed. "I know you. Light My Fire. It's on the radio." Morrison nodded again. The man looked at the guitar, looked at Morrison, then looked back at the guitar. This guitar was the man's only friend for 12 years. After he came back from Vietnam and everything fell apart. When his wife left, when he lost his job, when his house was taken away, all he had left was this guitar. A 1941 Gibson acoustic, cedar body, maple neck, inherited from his father. Every day he played this guitar on the streets, collected a few dollars, bought cheap whiskey, slept in a cardboard box. The guitar was nothing without him. He was nothing without the guitar. But there was something in Morrison's eyes. Despair, emptiness, lostness. The man recognized that look because he saw it every morning when he looked in the mirror. $500, said Morrison. The man held his breath. $500. Money he hadn't seen in 12 years. He could stay in a hotel for a week, buy clean clothes, maybe apply for a job. But the guitar? The guitar was everything. The man looked at Morrison and said, "Why are you paying so much?" Morrison replied, "Because this guitar is valuable to you, and valuable things shouldn't be cheap." The man took the guitar in his hands, looked at it one last time. The scratches on the body, the wear on the neck, the rust on the strings, they were all the story of 12 years. Every scratch a night, every rust a rain, every wear a song. Adam handed the guitar to Morrison. Morrison took it gently, as if it might break. He took $500 bills from his wallet and gave them to the man. Adam took the money, trembling. Morrison said, "I don't know what I'll do with this guitar, but I'll do something. For you." The man nodded, unable to speak. Morrison took the guitar in his lap, turned, and started walking. The man watched Morrison's back, watched him get into the Cadillac, watched the car drive away. And in that moment, the man understood. Morrison was gone too. He was just gone on a different street. Morrison sat in the Cadillac and looked at the guitar. Old, worn out, but it had a soul. Morrison touched the strings. The sound was off. It needed tuning, but it was authentic. This guitar hadn't been recorded in studios, hadn't been edited by producers, hadn't been polished for radio. This guitar had only played the blues, only played pain, only played the real thing. Morrison started the engine and drove toward the Sunset Strip. Whisky a Go-Go. The Doors were playing there that night, a small club gig, just a crowd of 300. Morrison was supposed to do a sound check with the band, but he was late. It was 5 o'clock. The sound check had started at 4. Ray Manzarek would definitely be angry, but Morrison didn't care. Because Morrison now had something in his hands, that homeless man's guitar, and this guitar had taught Morrison something. Music belonged to the soul, not to money. When he arrived at Whisky a Go-Go, Morrison entered through the back door. Ray Manzarek, Robbie Krieger, and John Densmore were waiting backstage. Manzarek immediately exploded. "Where were you, Jim? We've been waiting for 2 hours. Sound check is over. The concert starts in 3 hours, and you..." He stopped. He saw the guitar in Morrison's hand. "What's this?" Morrison raised the guitar. "I'm using this tonight." Krieger approached and looked at the guitar. "Jim, what is this? Where did you find it? Does this guitar even work?" Densmore also approached. "Jim, we have our equipment. Fenders, Gibsons, professional gear. What is this?" Morrison looked at the guitar, then at the band members. "This is a real guitar. It was played on the streets for 12 years. A Vietnam vet played the blues on it. Now this guitar is here, with us." Manzarek shook his head. "Jim, this is nonsense. You'll use our electric guitar, like always." Morrison shook his head. "No, I'm using this guitar tonight. And at the end of the concert, I'm going to do something." The band members looked at each other. When Morrison said he was going to do something, it was always dangerous because Morrison's spontaneous actions were often chaotic. The scandal in Miami, the police raid in Frankfurt, the escape from the stage in Amsterdam. But stopping Morrison was now impossible. Manzarek took a deep breath. "Okay, Jim, tonight is your night. But please, please don't cause a scandal. Elektra Records is already on our case. We can't handle another scandal." Morrison smiled. "I won't cause a scandal, Ray. I'll make art." And Morrison sat down in the wings, took that old guitar in his lap, and began tuning it. The strings were loose, some nearly broken, but Morrison patiently adjusted each one. Krieger watched and noticed something. Morrison was treating that guitar as if it were a treasure. Usually, Morrison was disrespectful to instruments, holding guitars roughly, sometimes throwing them on the floor. But he was treating this guitar differently, as if the guitar were alive, as if the guitar had a soul. At 8 o'clock, the doors of Whisky a Go-Go opened. 300 people poured in, most of them Doors fans, some just curious, a few journalists. The club was packed, the air thick with tobacco smoke and the smell of cheap beer. The stage was small, intimate. The stage where the Doors made their debut in 1966. Morrison loved that stage because there was no distance between him and the crowd. Everyone could see each other, feel each other. Morrison got lost in stadiums, but at Whisky A Go-Go, Morrison found himself. At 9 o'clock, the lights went out. The crowd screamed. The band took the stage. Manzarek sat down at the organ. Densmore sat down at the drums. Krieger strapped on his guitar. And Morrison came out last. He wore leather pants and a white shirt, but instead of an electric guitar, he held that old acoustic Gibson. The crowd began to whisper. "What's that guitar? Why is Morrison holding an acoustic guitar? Is this something different?" Morrison approached the microphone. There was no microphone stand. Morrison always threw the stand off stage, wanting to move freely. Morrison looked at the crowd and said, "Tonight is a special night. This guitar is a special guitar. I bought this guitar today from a homeless man on Skid Row. I paid $500. Why? Because this man was freer than I am." The crowd fell silent. No one knew what to say. Morrison continued. "This guitar lived on the streets for 12 years. It played the blues, it played pain, it played truth. No record company touched this guitar. No producer tampered with it. No radio station filled it with lies. This guitar was pure. And tonight, with this guitar, I'm going to show you something." Morrison picked up the guitar and touched the strings. The first chords came, rough, raw, but beautiful. Morrison started playing Roadhouse Blues, but this version was different. Instead of the fast, electric guitar version, Morrison played a slow, bluesy version. The sound of the acoustic guitar filled the club. Every string, every note, every chord. The crowd was mesmerized because they had never seen Morrison like this before. Morrison was always chaotic, energetic, uncontrolled. But tonight, Morrison was calm, focused. When he finished the song, the crowd erupted. Applause, screams, whistles. Morrison smiled, but it was a bitter smile. The second song was Break On Through. Again, an acoustic version. Again, slow, again, raw. The third song was Riders on the Storm. Morrison was extracting maximum emotion from every note of that guitar. The band members were stunned because Morrison was usually hasty, impatient. He wanted to finish songs quickly and move on to the next one. But tonight, Morrison was living every song, feeling every note. The fourth song was The End, a 12-minute epic. As Morrison played The End on that guitar, the club froze in time. No one moved, no one spoke. There was only Morrison's voice and the sound of that old guitar. When he reached the Oedipal section, Morrison whispered, "Father, I want to kill you. Mother, I want to." And the guitar strings were almost breaking but held. When the song ended, there was silence. Complete silence. Then one person began to clap, then two. Then the entire club was on its feet applauding. Morrison approached the microphone. The crowd was still applauding, but Morrison raised his hand, a signal for silence. The crowd slowly quieted. Morrison looked at the guitar. "This guitar taught me something today," Morrison said. "Music doesn't need instruments. Music is in the soul. This guitar carried the soul of a homeless man for 12 years. Now this guitar is in a club, under the spotlights, amid applause. But this is not its place. This guitar's place is on the street. This guitar's place is freedom." The crowd listened, confused. What did Morrison mean? Morrison held the guitar with both hands, raised it, like a trophy, a symbol of victory. "Music should not be imprisoned by instruments," Morrison shouted, and he slammed the guitar onto the stage floor. The first blow. The sound filled the club, a crack, a snap, a high-pitched sound. The body of the guitar split. The crowd screamed. Some in shock, some excited, some angry. Morrison didn't stop. The second blow. The body of the guitar shattered. Strings snapped, flew. The third blow. The neck broke. Fourth blow. The guitar was now unrecognizable, just pieces of wood, broken strings, a shattered treasure. Band members watched frozen. Manzik brought both hands to his head. "Jim did it again," he said. Densmore dropped his drumsticks. Krieger just stared, unable to find words. Morrison gathered the pieces of the guitar and threw them into the crowd. One piece landed in the front row. Someone grabbed it. Another piece flew to the right. A woman cried as she picked it up. Strings flew through the air, some landing on people. Morrison looked at the crowd and said, "Music should be free. This guitar carried a man's pain for 12 years. Then I bought it, paid $500, but I still imprisoned it. I put it on stage, put it under the spotlights, condemned it to applause. But music can't live like that. Music must be free. And now, this guitar is free." Someone in the crowd shouted, "You're crazy, Morrison." Morrison smiled. "Yes, but this guitar is free now." Someone else shouted, "Why did you destroy that guitar? You paid $500 for it." Morrison replied, "Because I paid $500, I had already killed the guitar. The moment I exchanged the money for the guitar, I turned it into a commodity. But now the guitar is music again." Club owner Elmer Valentine rushed onto the stage. "Morrison, this is your last time playing here. Get out," he yelled. Morrison left the stage and went backstage. The band members followed him. Backstage, Manzarek turned to Morrison and said, "Jim, what does this mean? You destroyed that guitar. That man was attached to that guitar. You took his last friend and destroyed it." Morrison looked at Manzarek. "No, Ray. I liberated that guitar. That man sold the guitar because he needed money. I bought the guitar because I was in pain. We both used the guitar for the wrong reasons. But now the guitar is just music, in the hands of the crowd, in pieces, but free." Krieger asked, "So what will that homeless man do? How long will $500 last him?" Morrison replied, "I don't know. But at least he learned something more valuable than $500. Music doesn't need instruments." The next morning, newspaper headlines reported Morrison smashing his guitar. "Jim Morrison destroys guitar on stage. The Doors frontman causes another scandal. Morrison. Music shouldn't be trapped in instruments." Some critics praised Morrison. Daddiest performance art. The Andy Warhol of rock music. The symbol of musical anarchy. Others condemned Morrison. Disrespectful. Worthless. He destroyed a homeless man's last possession. But Morrison didn't read these comments. That morning, Morrison went back to Skid Row. He went to the corner, but the homeless man wasn't there. The guitar case was gone. The cardboard was gone. Just an empty corner. Morrison went into a nearby shop and asked the owner, "There was a man playing guitar here, a Vietnam vet. Have you seen him?" The shop owner replied, "Yes, Tommy. Something happened yesterday. Someone gave him a lot of money. Then Tommy got a hotel room, bought clean clothes. He passed by here this morning. He was going to apply for a job." Morrison smiled. Tommy was alive. At least he would be alive for a few more weeks. But Morrison wondered. Was Tommy thinking about his guitar? Did Tommy regret selling his guitar for $500? Morrison never saw Tommy again. But 2 years later, in July 1971, when Morrison died in Paris, the Los Angeles newspapers wrote about Morrison's life. And there was a small piece, on the back page, "Homeless man pays tribute to Morrison." The story went, Tommy Sullivan, a former Vietnam veteran and street musician, held a memorial service on Venice Beach after Jim Morrison's death. Tommy had bought a new guitar, cheap, but it worked, and played "The End" for Morrison. Reporters asked Tommy, "Morrison destroyed your guitar. Are you angry with him?" Tommy replied, "No. Morrison didn't destroy my guitar. He liberated it. I was attached to that guitar for 12 years. Without the guitar, I had forgotten who I was. But when Morrison took the guitar, I became myself again. The guitar was just a tool. The music is in me, inside me. Morrison taught me that." Tommy added, and Morrison was right. Music shouldn't be confined to instruments. Music should be free. Morrison was free. Now I am free too. Morrison's performance that night went down in rock music history. In the years that followed, many musicians repeated Morrison's act of smashing guitars. Pete Townshend destroyed guitars on stage. Kurt Cobain smashed instruments. Jimi Hendrix burned his guitar. But none of them carried the same meaning as what Morrison did, because Morrison didn't destroy the guitar for show. Morrison destroyed the guitar to liberate it. Morrison didn't see just a tool in that homeless man's guitar. He saw a soul, a story, a captivity. And Morrison broke that captivity. It wasn't Morrison who bought the guitar for $500. Money had imprisoned the guitar. It was Morrison who brought the guitar onto the stage. The stage imprisoned the guitar. But Morrison, who broke the guitar, was liberating it. Because music is not in the instruments, nor in the parts, but in the spirit. And that night at Whisky, a Go-Go, Morrison taught everyone this. Music must be free always.